My mom has cancer. Jesus has the answer. I woke up this morning and a fresh wave just hit me again. My mom has cancer. Jesus has the answer. Oh God, I rely on you. What help is there to be had? What help, God? What help? Yesterday, my mom had her biopsy, and we don't have the results yet. We won't. It's the holidays now. It's the day before Thanksgiving. And I am trying not only to stand in faith with just one thing, but to reject the cowering, overwhelming, craven fear that is in my soul. Casting down thoughts and imaginations, staying away from what if. I really believe this year that the Lord has revealed to me before all this, before last week when I thought everything was fine, I was actually thanking God for the smooth sailing my life has been lately. I was thanking God for a strong marriage and a beautiful life. And I still have those things, but I'm trying not to bargain with God and say I'll just give it all up to save my mother. But I'm getting to this point where I feel desperate. And I try to pray, and I do pray. But you know what? I was thinking this morning, I was laying in my bed, just staring out the window. And I kind of felt in my heart like the Lord say, you haven't really read your Bible. I've worshipped, I'm praying in the Spirit, but I haven't really read my Bible. A few things here and there, but I thought, you know why I haven't read my Bible? Because I don't want you to talk to me. And I know that's the tactic of the enemy, because I know that the word, I do believe that the word of God is living and active and powerful and sharper than any sword, able to pierce between soul and spirit. And I need that, and able to pierce between what's bone and what's marrow. You know, what's the hard, rigid, unyielding parts and what's the soft, life-giving parts. I still believe that. It's almost like because it's alive, I don't want to hear from God, even though that's the very thing I need, so I know that's the enemy. But I'm afraid of almost taking false hope and reading it too far into every scripture. Like, is that for my mom? Is that for my mom? So we don't know the results of her biopsy. And I saw her yesterday after her biopsy. She was all dressed in clothes that she really likes. This denim jacket, these jeans. She was walking funny. I'm like, Mom, what's wrong with your leg? She's like, I don't know. She said something's really bothering my leg. And her knee has been bothering her for a couple of days, and that's not really like her. And her neck has been bothering, like, she's had these little things along the way that have been bothering her. Just like life things, her neck, her back. But now that she has cancer, I know that she is terrified that it's metastasized cancer and that her body is riddled with it. I know every ache, every pain. She thinks it's broken off. She's mentioned that. And my mom is not a person of fear. She's not. Well, actually, I guess she picks her fear. She's a person of great faith. But when I was a kid, my mom educated me actively on like how not to get raped in a parking lot. She was always talking to me about, if you're at the mall and you approach your car, you always just look underneath because men hide under there. When you open the door, they're going to jump out, shove you off to the side, and jump behind the wheel and take you to God knows where. And everyone knows if they take you to a second location, you're as good as dead. She would talk to me about wearing put my car keys like between my fingers, like they're brass knuckles, and how to scratch somebody. She took me to like a rape prevention class, like a female, like a self-defense course. And they were at my church and they were talking about like if you're gonna be assaulted. I didn't want to say it. If you're gonna be assaulted. Well, they said some stuff, but anyway, they were like, pee on the guy. My mother was like, good pay. I don't know how old I was, 13, 14. So she's not really a person of fear. She really is a person of fight. She is a scrappy, claw your eyes out human being. Grambo. She's Grambo. There isn't anything she wouldn't do for her family and for herself. We always used to say, people say this about me, but we used to say about my mom, like, my mother would say it about herself. She would say, if I'm ever suddenly dead, I didn't kill myself. Don't let them tell you that. It's a lie. Like, I'll never kill myself. Ever. She was like, I was murdered. You get on Dateline and you figure it out. She knows I'm a huge Keith Morrison fan. And she would say, anything ever happens to me, she was like, I want you to go for the jugular. I'm dead, you'd be a millionaire. You get all the money you can, because I didn't go quietly. And then she'll say, whoever it is, look for a guy covered in blood and unexplained bruises. Because he's the guy that did it. And I beat him and I went down with a fight. That's how she thinks. She thinks about that kind of stuff. She's constantly ready to fight in a good way. And so I grew up with her protecting me in that way. I always had to like look in the trunk of my car. At one point I had a hatchback, and my mom would be like, men, if you don't lock your doors, you double check your handles, because the men will climb into your hatchback and they will ride all the way home to your house. And when you pull in your driveway, they know where you're living and they will come back and get you. And then she told me a story about a truck driver who had been following this woman all the way home and beeping his horn. The woman was so scared and all this stuff. So finally she, after like trying to evade the guy, she finally gets to her house, pulls in her driveway, and like runs in her house and locks the door. And the truck driver pulls in behind her, jumps out of the truck, goes to her car, and he had seen a man in her hatchback. And the truck driver pulled him out and like beat him and subdued him and called the police or whatever. She grew up that way. My grandmother is another scrapper. My grandmother grew up dirt poor. And they're from Louisiana. They got some French Creole in them. And boy, what a life. But anyway, my grandmother grew up sending my mother articles about like the latest co-eds whose breasts were bit off by a serial killer. And these terrible stories. And So I grew up being very protected by my mom, and to see her be afraid has been a struggle. My parents came back from the biopsy yesterday, and they were they were ashen. They were gray in their faces. Their faces were drawn. They looked exhausted and aged. They both had nice clothes on. They had gone shopping. But there was a shift in their expression. And it hurt my heart. And I prayed with them. I said, let's just pray right now. And I felt like, I don't know what else to do. I don't even know if these words matter, you know? And I've actually been there. But Satan has attacked me in that way before, where I've been praying for something and he has attacked me actively when the stakes were high. And he's been like, in my head, you're praying. And I just felt like a voice was saying to me, your prayers don't matter. All your words are falling to the ground. God isn't real. I mean, it sounds maybe ludicrous, but I was fighting to even believe God was real at times in my life. And I have even faced that struggle now. And I said to my husband, someone said to me, what you need is a glass of wine. And I was like, I can't drink a glass of wine. I was like, are you kidding me? If I start drinking, I'll never stop. I'm in so much turmoil that I can't, but I know I have to feel every minute of my pain and my fear, I have to confront it, because if I try to mask it or use some kind of crutch, take me into oblivion, I think I'll fall down a hole I won't come out of. I remember on like the second day after the news and my parents came over, we just held each other. My mom and I, we just broke wide open and we wept. And after they left, I was just physically sick. I was so sick to my stomach. And my husband said, Alicia, what do you need? What can I do? You know what I said? I don't think I've ever said this in my life. I said, I wish I could have some heroin. I said, I wish I could just shoot something in my veins and take my pain away for just an hour, for 10 minutes. I said, I'm in so much pain. I just want it to go away. I just want to buy myself happiness for just a moment. I want to forget that this is happening to me and my family. I said, if I knew somebody who had oxycodone or Vicodin, I said I would take it. I actually thought, if my mother dies and she's on morphine, I'm just gonna take all her morphine and I'm gonna shoot it in my veins and I'm just gonna die with her. I know those are crazy thoughts. And I have so much to live for. And I'll never leave my children. And if I'm ever dead, I didn't kill myself either. I was murdered. Go be a millionaire. Find the person and be a millionaire. But the pain, the gnawing pain has been a lot. And I was talking to my friend. A friend of mine a friend I grew up with left me a voice message. Just to check in with me. And as I heard her voice, I had the most horrible memory come back to me. I'm so ashamed. I remember going to her house for sleepovers. So my best friend growing up, still one of my best friends now. And her mom was like a real homemaker type mom, cooking all the time and just loved baking. And she sewed and she quilted, and their house was like a farmhouse type of house. And for my mother, everything is white and stainless steel. My mom's a nurse, and she is a germaphobe-ish. I mean, like, everything's wiped down, everything's bleached, everything's white, because she's like, white shows the stains, and white shows where everything's dirty, and we gotta keep it clean, and it's so sterile. And so as a kid, I was like, when I was a teenager, and she was like trying to redecorate, I was like, Mom, you gotta put a little color in here. It looks like a morgue. It looks like a mortuary in here. Like, somebody was murdered and we had to wipe down the walls. It's awful. I convinced her to paint the kitchen yellow, like a warm, buttery yellow. And it's still yellow to this day. And to her, it was like the most radical. I mean, she agonized over this yellow because it wasn't white. And every year she'd paint the cabinet, repaint the cabinet. She's like, I always use white because you can just paint it over white and then you don't have to do a lot of work. Anyway, so my friend's mom would always bake. She was just like a little woman, housewife, a good mom. And my mom was in nursing school at the time. Really hard to make the dean's list and keep our home running. It was nice she didn't cook. My dad had to cook, and it was some weird concoction of beans or something. It was like a black bean soup, which I hated. My mother only baked chicken everything with my mom. Or so I thought. Or so I remembered, or I told myself, because I remember I went to my friend's house for a sleepover. We watched Steel Magnolias, and her mom sat with us and watched the movie, and she had made, like, I don't know what, something homemade, cookies, a bread, some kind of bread, like a cranberry bread. I remember she made a lot. And we laughed and we cried, and I really loved that movie. And the mother sat there with us the whole time. And my mom never sits down and watches a movie. She would like constantly be popping up, wiping off the kitchen table and spraying it down with bleach. We were like, Mom, you're missing the best parts. Come out here. You know, and sometimes she'd make popcorn, but she didn't really bake. And I remember I came home from my friend's house the next day. And I said to my mom, why aren't you more like her? I said, she's a little housewife, and she stays and takes care of her kids. And I said, and she watches movies, and she sits down and takes the time. Where are you? When I heard my friend's voice, that horrible memory came racing back to me. I remember my mom came to me, my dad came to me, and he was like, you little brat. He was like, you made your mother cry. He's like, your mother's in nursing school. Do you know how hard she's working? He's like, your mother is trying to put food on the table while I'm working too. And she's on the dean's list. He was so mad at me. And my mom was so hurt. She was so hurt that I compared her to my friend's mom. And then I shared that with my friend. I said, just this morning I actually said to her, I always wanted my mom to be more like your mom. And I said, I'm so mad at myself for ever wishing that. You know what she said to me? She said, when I would sleep over your house. She said, sleep over your house. And your mom would pray with us at night. She said, I remember wondering if your mom tucked you in like that every night and prayed with you. She said, because my mom never prayed with me. She said, my mom never tucked me in. She just sent us to bed just go to bed. And she said, and every time I came over, your mother. She said your mother would kneel next to the bed and pray. She would rub her hair. She said sometimes your mother would fall asleep on the floor next to the bed. That's so my mother. She's so hardworking. We call her a shark, because when a shark stops swimming, they die. It's a sign that they're dead. We always say, my mom, you're sharking. My mother would sit down and just pass out asleep all the time. Her mother did the same thing. It's just like her sisters do it too. They just endlessly move. They're always go, 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 go. So when they stop, they just shut off and go to sleep. And she said, your mother would fall asleep for 2 hours on the floor next to the bed. She said, and I just wondered, is your mom always like that? And I said, yes, my mother was always like that. Every night she tucked us into bed, and every night she rubbed our backs, and every night she prayed over us, and she would bind Satan, and she would cry out to God. I said, every night. And this whole time I was comparing her to my friend's mom because she baked and watched movies. Meanwhile, my mother's crying out to God. I'm so ashamed of that. I can't believe I was such a little beast. And yesterday when they came back from the biopsy, I was talking to my aunt, and I said, my mom can't have anything with sugar. And I said, I wish I could give her something for the holidays, because she really likes pumpkin pie kind of thing. And my aunt likes to bake. My aunt was like, I'm gonna whip something up. And within an hour, she had brought over a custard she made with eggs and sweetened with applesauce. And she had pureed all these carrots, and like a carrot custard. She brought it over fresh out of the oven and gave it to me so that I could give it to my mom after her biopsy. Just to try and see if she liked it. And after my aunt left, I just broke down and cried because I thought her kindness, first of all, was just so typical of her. But I was like, I can't believe I need this kind of kindness. I can't believe I need sugar-free food and alkaline foods, and we have to figure out what is anti-inflammatory and what's an antioxidant food, and everything has changed. And it's okay to eat healthier, but we have to because it's got to be part of the tool to keep my mom alive. Because everything, her whole diet has to change. My aunt brought this custard, and my mom ate it, and my mom was so grateful. She was like, wow, this is amazing, and really hits the spot. She's been eating kale and raw broccoli and cabbage for days as cruciferous foods, and all these things she's got to eat. And just a moment of a different taste, and even having sugar in it. And I was so heartbroken for my mom. And she said to me, I said, isn't it nice, Mom, to have a little something that's different for a change? And I know it was bland. It was good, but it was bland. And she just kept staring into that little ramekin. Just staring into it. She was eating it over the sink, which is like her thing, by the way. When I grew up, my mom was constantly eating over the sink. Her mother eats over the sink. I have just the eternal image of my mother leaning over the sink on one foot. She stands a really specific way with like one foot is like on top of the other. She leans over the sink and eats. And I used to wonder why. And now I lean over the sink and eat because I know why. Because you don't want to clean up any crumbs, or you're just gonna put the dishes in the sink anyway. We're not having a formal meal right now, so she would eat bowls of cereal over the sink. So she was standing over my sink yesterday in my kitchen, and she was eating her custard. And she looked so sad, and I knew why. I knew why she looked so sad. I didn't say anything. And when I was cleaning yesterday, I found this card from my daughter, my 9-year-old daughter. And I've been trying so hard to keep my emotions at bay. My kids know what's going on, don't understand at all. They don't. I haven't showered in days. Probably shower today, I don't know. See how it goes. My 9-year-old is really sensitive to my emotional moods. She's one of those kids. She would like crawl back in my womb if she could be closer to me. I have a love-hate relationship with that because I'm such a different personality, but she's always writing me notes. I was always writing my mom notes too, which is so funny. But my daughter ended up that way. She wrote me this note. I screamed at her a couple days ago, and then I just like unloaded on her. And I was like, "You failed!" Whatever it was some stupid chore, I think. And it just broke me. And I just screamed, and I'm like, "Get away from me. Just get away, get on my face." And I said, "Go get in the shower." She had to wash her hair that day, and she's long hair. And so I was like, "Just get in the shower and go wash your hair," to get her away from me. When she got done and she was all dressed in her pajamas, she gave me this card. And it said, and I just found it today when I was cleaning. I remember when I read it, I was just so brokenhearted. So it just says, "This to the best mom ever," right? And inside, picture her in the shower. That's her in the shower singing. And there's me thinking of her with a heart. That's supposed to be. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's her. There's me. And she's thinking of me in a heart, right? So here's what she wrote. "Dear Mom, I know I'm an incomplete person, but I want you to know I'm going to be a better girl. When you are sad, I am sad. I was in the shower and I was singing about you. You were the best mom ever. I would do anything for you to just be mine. So if you are reading this, just know that I love you." I am trying so hard to stay balanced at home. And I don't want to walk around like there's a pall of death in the house, because there's not. But I'm grieving on so many different levels. I'm not grieving death. I said that I'm not grieving death per se. There's that fear. It's fear. It's fear. It's fear. And I know the Bible says that when perfect love comes, it will cast out fear. And I know God has not given me the spirit of fear. And I firmly believe that fear is not an emotion. Fear is a spirit. And I don't want my children to grow up remembering me be depressed. I have heard so many stories of friends who have said, their parents went through this or that, and they remember. My mom wouldn't want that anyway. She'd be really mad at me. I just find myself bursting into tears over the stupidest things, or lashing out, or wanting to be alone when my kids want to be with me, so I can lay down. I have no energy. And even shaking it off, even moving forward from it, feels like a betrayal. Because I should be sad. This is hard, and I'm so conflicted on every level. And I just lean into the Lord. And I hope that it's all true. That's all we can do is hope. I know that Jesus Christ, like the Lord said to me yesterday, I was thinking, I'm walking, through this valley of the shadow of death. I will fear no evil, because the enemy wants me to fear the evil things. And this is a battleground for me. This is such a battleground. It's a battleground of faith, and I know that. But to fight it is taking every ounce of my energy, and some days I just can't fight. Some days I just want to float. Just want to sail away. But when I was thinking about the valley of the shadow of death, I felt like the Lord said to me, you have a living hope in Jesus Christ. I'm trying to lean into that. I have a living hope. A hope that is alive, breathing, existing, moving, working, answering, hearing, rescuing. My hope, Jesus Christ, is alive. He resurrected. He broke the power of death and hell and the grave. And as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I don't have to fear anything evil related to death, because I have a living hope, Jesus Christ. My mom has cancer. My mom has cancer. Jesus. My mom has cancer. But Jesus has the answer.